Welcome. Edinaldo, Letícia, Paulo, Pedro, Ricardo, Soraya. Hope you all can hear us. Welcome. We're about to start. So, Kai, you want to give it one more minute and then we start?
Yes. So, Edinaldo sent us. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Edinaldo.
Good afternoon, Edinaldo.
We are just waiting a few more minutes so we can have more people with us and then we can start. So we have like already 7 people.
Yeah.
And let's just give more like 2 minutes to have more people and then we can start. I believe we can start introducing ourselves, Luis. What do you think?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yes. I'm Caio Banduk. I am the marketing manager for Berlitz Brazil. We are very, very happy to have this project for all the students so they can practice their English with native speakers or people that lives abroad and speaks English very well. The idea here is to bring to you a session so you can practice your English, talking about a subject that's not really related to the language, you know. So Teri is going to talk about a different stuff that is not English. I'm not giving like the spoiler because she's going to present, but we are really happy. The idea is to be like a conversation. So whenever you have a question or you want to talk, just raise your hand or type on the chat. And me, Luis, and Giovanna, we are going to manage like the chat and the interactions with Teri. And please, if you want to speak, to open your microphone, just let us know, and we are going to help you with open your microphone and to talk directly with Teri. So we are very excited with this project and hope you enjoy the session.
Excellent, Caio. Thanks for handing it to me. Leticia, hello, in our question and answer, saying hello. Thank you. Welcome, Leticia. We're going to want you to talk to us. Everybody, welcome to the session. I'm Luis Chantry. I'm Director of Quality and Training for Brazil. We are very honored and happy to have our speaker today. And let me introduce Giovanna first, and then we'll introduce Teri. Giovanna, why don't you say a little about yourself, please?
Hello, everyone. I'm Giovanna. I also work in marketing with Caio, and that's it. We're going to assist you during the webinar.
Thank you, Giovanna. And now, switching over to Teri Erhardt.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. Very happy to be here to talk about I hope is an interesting topic for you. So the topic for today is facing your finances and finally feeling fantastic. So how did I come up with this topic? Well, actually, this is the title of a book that I am in the process of writing with my sister. And how did we come up with this idea? Well, last year, when the world sort of turned upside down, we thought to ourselves, what is something that people could maybe use some support with, or maybe for the first time they've had to think about? And we said, well, finances. And we know that sometimes looking at your finances or facing your finances might be something people have never done before, or it might be a little scary. But with ideas that we put into this material, we wanted to people finally feel fantastic, to feel good about the finances. And that's what I'd like to share with you today. So as Luis said, my name is Teri Erhardt. I'm not a financial planner or I'm an accountant. I would probably describe myself here as a minimalist, and I'll talk a little bit about what that means in the presentation, who's learned a lot about how to manage my finances throughout my life and have been able to achieve some long-term goals. I'm actually coming to you today from Valencia, Spain, where I have an apartment here, which was one of my long-term goals, to escape the winters in Germany, where I usually live. And so for the next few minutes and so for the next part of this webinar, I want to share these ideas with you. We want to get your ideas. So as I'm going through the the presentation and talking about various things that my sister and I do in order to be creative with expenses. If you have any ideas, please feel free to type them in the chat. We'll go back and we'll have a look at them. And then for each section, also maybe to give you some food for thought, some ideas of what you could do next in any of these areas. So starting here with the basics. So this might be very obvious for some of you. Interestingly enough, as I was talking to friends about this, some of them actually couldn't answer these two questions. How much do I earn and how much do I spend? So obviously, if you're going to take a look at your financial health, you're going to want to, first of all, see, well, what money do I have coming in? And this can come from various ways. It could be your salary, your wages. You might be self-employed or have your own company. So you have money coming in from clients. Maybe you sell items. So you make a little extra money on the side doing that, or you receive gifts for a birthday or for a wedding. So looking at the money coming in, and of course, then you need to look at, well, what is the money that's going out? What is it that I actually spend? And I've listed some items here. I think these are quite obvious. Obviously, we have housing. Are you renting or do you own something? Do you have a car? What about insurance or many sort of memberships or subscriptions? Of course, we need to eat and we need to purchase gas. There's electricity, clothes, travel. And I've actually put these into two columns because one way to look at your expenses are what I put on the left-hand side, which is what are your fixed expenses? What do you have every month that is the exact same amount, your mortgage payment or your rent, as opposed to the other side? What are some expenses that can vary? You know, food, or maybe if you don't use your car as much, you don't pay as much for gas, or depending on the type of program you have, maybe you pay a fixed amount for your telephone or for your internet. But the idea is that the very basics, you want to take a look at what's the money that I have coming in and what do I have going out. And then the interesting thing, and as I said before, as friends of mine were put into the first position to actually look at these numbers, it's very, very simple. You look at the money that you have coming in, your income, and you subtract your expenses, and it could possibly be shocking for you if you haven't had a chance to really look at this. I remember asking my mom, well, Mom, how much do you spend in a month? And she says, I actually don't know. So in any case, it might be that you do this exercise and you see, it's time to improve upon a couple of things. And so the first thing to do is basically put the picture together. Now, here you can see a sample of a spreadsheet. Some people don't like Excel spreadsheets. There are obviously apps out there that you can use, but the idea is here to put the picture together of what your expenses are, what your income is. I first did this exercise actually with my son, who was 22 years old and was going off to university. And for some reason, he kept complaining that he never had any money. Now, Bank of Mom was a great way to support him, and I often, helped him out. But at one point I said, look, let's put this all down on a sheet of paper, on a spreadsheet, and see what sort of income do you have each month. Well, this month, maybe you'll get an extra paycheck, or you've got a birthday in this month, so maybe you'll get some extra money. And then what are the expenses that you have? Obviously, he had his rent, he had to pay for school, but he also noticed in doing this that a lot of his money went out for going out with friends and going out on a Saturday night. And so it was really an eye-opening experience. So in the facing your finances, one of the first things that you need to look at is, okay, what is my picture? How much do I have coming in? How much do I have going out? And right now, we're sort of in the fact-finding part of this whole process. Another piece of advice is coming clean with your credit cards. My father actually was a financial planner, and one of the first pieces of advice that he gave all of his clients was pay off your credit cards. Now, I know credit cards give us a sense of freedom. We can purchase what it is that we want when we want to have it. And I've actually had experience with credit cards in 2 countries, in the United States as well as in Germany. So in the United States, it was very much that you would charge things on your credit card, you would get the bill, you would pay maybe a small amount towards that. And then, of course, the catch was that you were charged interest on the amount that you had left. And sometimes it was very, very high interest rates, which, of course, could mean that you actually ended up owing more money than you started with. In Germany, credit cards worked a different way. Basically, you charge things on your credit card, but at the end of the month, the entire balance is paid off. You basically go back to zero, which kind of keeps you from putting too much on your credit card at that point. But one of the things I learned was to then watch the spending on the credit card. So as we're fact finding and taking a look at finances, looking at what we have coming in, what's going out, I'd say pay particular attention to these little plastic credit cards, because this is where a lot of your expenses might add up. And when was the last time you looked at your credit card bill to see what you actually are being charged? So very often, especially with subscriptions and memberships, we charge them on our credit card and then we actually forget that we're being charged this amount of money every month. So one of the things that I did back when I was going through this whole process was really look to see what is actually being charged to my credit card every month. So this is the fact finding, the facing, but let's start to now talk a little bit about some of the fun, creative things we can do as we're starting to look at areas that we spend money on. So I'd like to share with you maybe some new ideas. Maybe you do some of these already, but these are things that my sister and I have been doing for a while, and they make it a lot of fun as far as looking at how we can save money or manage our expenses a little bit differently. So the first area is eating well on a budget. So obviously we all need to eat. We enjoy maybe cooking a meal, or we enjoy going out. I think last year when the restaurants were closed, everybody was dying to then go out and eat in a restaurant again. But interestingly enough, maybe you found that, oh, actually you were saving a little bit of money because you weren't going out to eat. So some of the ideas that I've put into practice is, first of all, planning your meals. So what I do every week is I sit down and I plan, what is the family going to eat, or what am I going to eat for the next few weeks? And one thing that you can do before you actually start to plan your meals is take a look at what you have already. Our mother did this. She took a look in her freezer and realized she had food in there that she could live off for the next 2 months. So instead of going out and buying more, she actually started using up what she had in her pantry, in her freezer, in her refrigerator. And then she made plans for things that she had forgotten that she actually had. She started to look at new recipes to see what could she cook here. And that brings us to the next point, making cooking easy. So very often people think, oh, I don't have time to cook. It takes too much time. It's just easier to grab some food, some takeout on the way home. So there are a lot of ways actually that you can make cooking easy. First of all, food prepping is one thing that I got in the habit of doing, which is chopping and pre-chopping food so that when it came time to cook, you just simply had to go in, grab something out of the refrigerator, throw it into the pan or into the oven, and it was very, very easy. I'm also a huge fan of the slow cooker. So in fact, just today, I made some Indian butter chicken and it was great. I just threw all the ingredients into the slow cooker. 6 hours later, I had a complete meal. And since I actually live alone, what also helps make cooking easy is that very often, as we see here with the man in the picture making a big, huge pot, maybe of spaghetti sauce or of soup, I very often make big batches of things, and then I put it in the freezer or in the refrigerator, and I can eat it then again when I maybe don't have time to cook. I just pull it out and I can warm it up. Now, of course, you might not always want to cook. Of course, we want to go out, but then again, here, there are really interesting ways to save money when you go out to eat. So for example, happy hour is very, very popular in the United States, also going to buffets. I did have a funny story. At one point, I was actually on a date with someone, and we went to an Indian restaurant. And when the gentleman went to pay, he pulled out a coupon book, a 2-for-1 coupon book, in order to pay for the meal. Now, a lot of people thought, oh my gosh, that's horrible. I thought it was fantastic. In fact, I asked him, I said, where did you get this coupon book? And he said, oh, they have it for the city. Well, sure enough, I went back and I looked to see if they had it for my city, and I bought it. And after that, every time I went out to eat with a friend, we would look in the coupon book for new restaurants to try, to see if we could use the 2-for-1 offer. So what are some things that you can do now in the area of eating well on a budget? As I said before, take a look what you have. Do an inventory of your fridge and your freezer. Use up food before it's about to go bad, because the worst thing you can do, and it's a huge waste of money, is to have to throw food away. And then when you see what you have, research some new meals, find some new recipes that you can use. Keeping a grocery list and planning your meals will make sure that you buy only what you need. And of course, being able to prep for quick cooking can really save you a lot of time. And then, of course, you always want to research things that are on sale. I remember in the United States, it used to be the Sunday newspaper. I don't know whoever actually gets a paper anymore. But of course, there are all sorts of apps that you can go to look for coupons for things that are on sale. The next area, looking great for less. So clothes shopping. Obviously, we want to look great. We want to be very stylish. Now, this is where the minimalist in me comes out a little bit, and I actually follow a Japanese woman by the name of Marie Kondo. She helps people tidy up their houses. And one of the first things that she has people do, because she does the tidying up according to categories, is she has people put all of their clothing onto their bed. And you can see here, this is an actual picture where I did this exercise with a friend of mine. And this can be quite eye-opening when you actually see this pile of clothes on the bed. And here again, she says, well, go through this and start to sort out things, make room for new items. Look at these clothes and see, does this really fit me anymore? Interestingly enough, when we were doing this exercise, there were still clothes that had the price tags on them that my friend had actually never worn. So one first exercise you can do is to really take a look at what you have, and maybe for the first time, clean out that closet. And then when it comes time to new items, I have to say I am a huge fan of thrift stores. And Luis will remember, actually, when I came to visit in Sao Paulo, one of the first things I asked him was, where's the nearest secondhand store, the nearest thrift store here that I can go to? And I find thrift store shopping like treasure hunting. Not only that, I think one of my favorite pieces of clothing, a sweater that I got at a thrift store, I paid $1.99 for, and it looks great. It fits really nicely. So for me, it's like treasure hunting. It's like going in and finding that one unique piece at a really great price. And thrift store shopping is something you can do wherever you go. I've been to thrift stores in New York City. I've been to thrift stores in Paris. I've been to thrift stores in Berlin. So very, very fun thing to do. In fact, when my son was going to start his job in a bank and we needed to get him all sorts of suits and ties, we actually went to a thrift store in New York City and we're able to buy 5 silk ties for $25 total. So $5 a piece. We got 5 new ties, and he was all set to go. Another thing that you can
comes across as an amazing thing, Teri, because we would never expect someone coming from Europe looking for a thrift store here in Brazil. And that really surprised me when you asked me, Luis, where can I find the best thrift store here, or some thrift stores? And you find some of them on your own too, right? To go around.
I did, yeah, I do. Yeah, I usually look it up on the internet, where the secondhand stores. Of course, if you've done this exercise that we did, getting rid of your clothes in your closet, one of the fun things to do is a clothing exchange. My sister does this very often with her friends for jewelry, for clothes, bringing in items maybe that you don't want to wear anymore, but that maybe a friend might like to have, and you exchange these. And then finally, of course, same as with the restaurants, bargain shopping. So always looking for sales, looking for items that have been discounted. When I took my son and his friend to the United States for the first time, I told them the golden rule of buying in the United States is don't pay full price for anything. There's always a sale, there's always a discount, especially around the holidays. So the idea here is to go bargain shopping in the stores when you go to shop. So what are some things that you can do now in this area? Well, as I said before, do an inventory of your closet, see what you have, get rid of things that you don't need anymore, take a look to see if you have things that you haven't worn yet, research secondhand stores, maybe organize a clothing, shoe, or a jewelry swap, and look for sales in your favorite shops. So again, going back to our topic, some ways that you can actually look good and dress for less as you're watching your finances. The next area I call keeping occasions special. So we have our friends and our family, they have birthdays, they have weddings. We want to give gifts, but maybe we aren't really in the position to buy expensive gifts. So here are some ideas that we have done. The first one is homemade gifts, actually. So it's very common, for example, in Germany for you to receive maybe some homemade jam for Christmas gift, or I've received homemade jewelry from friends. And one thing that I do every year, and my colleagues look forward to this every year, is I make cookies. I bake homemade cookies for my colleagues. I think I've been doing this for 15 years. I do a combination of American cookies, so peanut butter and chocolate chips, and then I also do German cookies as well. And everybody gets a bag of cookies as a gift. Another thing, and this is something that we implemented in my family, and it comes from my mother, because whenever you ask my mother, what do you want for your birthday? She says, give me memories. And so instead of actually buying gifts, we focus on experiences. And what we do is we write out a little gift certificate of either something that we will do with someone or we will do for someone. And even my 14-year-old son, when we got into this, he was up for it. In fact, I think I got from him a day of cleaning the house, which was quite surprising because usually 14-year-olds are not very much into cleaning. And for my mother, he said that he would walk with her downtown and take her shopping because she was in Germany and she didn't speak German. So he was going to accompany grandma for the day. So deeds instead of things is also what we call it. And of course, what it really ends up being is your time, maybe doing something for someone. And that goes to the third topic, sharing your skills. So again, if you're good at something, maybe you can offer to put together some furniture for someone, or you can drive them somewhere, or you maybe can do some interior designing for them, or maybe sew something for them. So here the idea is that if you want to give a gift, it doesn't always have to be an expensive physical item. It can be something homemade. It can be a memory, or it could be a way in which you actually share some of your skills and some of your time. I remember with my stepchildren who have small kids, they all got a day of babysitting with Grandma Teri, so that they would have a chance to be able to maybe go out and just have a day for themselves. So what are some things you can do here? Well, obviously you want to make a list of upcoming holidays and birthdays so you know what is coming. Maybe narrow down the list. Look at your budget and see what you can afford, and then start to think, what items or memory can I create here? Another thing that our mother does, because she sometimes does like to give small gifts to colleagues, is that she actually shops throughout the entire year. So waiting until the last minute can actually be more expensive than for gift giving, because you just have to go out and find, something. But mom actually spends the entire year, if she's maybe on a trip or she goes somewhere special, she might pick up a little something and then she'll give that to somebody at work for Christmas or for their birthday. So again, shopping throughout the year. Or another thing, this is something we used to do in our family, is that we would see if anybody wanted to go in on one big gift instead of buying a lot of little smaller gifts. And I think this is something, it works very well for weddings. It works very well for birthdays, for friends' birthdays, because you can maybe get them something special. Okay, the next area I call dare to be unfaithful. So as we can see here, and as we know, there's lots of advertising that's constantly trying to get us to buy new brands, to buy expensive products. Maybe we've been working and we've had a brand that we've had since childhood, and it's just what we always buy. So when we started to look at our finances, one of the things that we did was we actually took a look at, oh, well, maybe I don't have to buy the most expensive brand or stick to this one. I can actually try some different ones. And what we found is that very often stores will have their own brands. In fact, I think it was in the 1970s that we actually had this generic brand in the United States, and it was all in yellow. The packaging was just yellow with the name on it, butter or paper towels and so on. And the reasoning behind this was because the company didn't spend money on advertising, they could offer the product at a lower price. But there are various areas that I've found that you can actually save money if you maybe switch to a store brand. For example, there is a shop in Germany that has its own store brand for personal care products, for shampoos, for soaps, and so on. Now, of course, you may be using your current brand because it has qualities about it that you really, really like. But here, my advice would be try something new. Try and see if maybe a store brand is as good as far as getting your hair clean or removing your makeup and so on. The other area I also found is cleaning products. So again, store brands very often are just as good as the more expensive cleaning products, but they maybe cost half the amount of money. So I've switched in a lot of ways to using less expensive cleaning products. And even here, there are a lot of home cleaning product solutions as well. My mother swears by the fact that you can actually use vinegar and a newspaper to clean a window. And so looking into also some old housewives recipes for cleaning products can also help you save money here. And then of course, food and medication. So obviously you need to be a little bit careful here. We want our food to be of high quality and to taste good. And of course, the medicine needs to be effective without any side effects. But when it comes to food, what I tend to do is try new things out and also make a difference whether I'm actually going to be eating this food directly or whether it's an ingredient in a larger recipe. So perhaps I don't need to use the more expensive chocolate chips, for example. In my chocolate chip cookies, I can go with a store brand and it's just as good and the cookies taste just as delicious. So when we're daring to be unfaithful, what can you do? Well, make a list of brand names that you buy and see, why it is that you use this brand. Maybe see if there is a store brand that's less expensive. If you don't see one, maybe you can ask for it. And I'd actually be interested to know in Brazil, what are some store brands maybe that people have tried? I'm more familiar with the ones from the United States and from Germany. Asking friends or family for recommendations and just trying new products, trying something out, seeing if you like it. And of course, if you do want to stick to your favorite item, again, this idea of maybe finding a coupon or a way when you can see if these items are on sale and maybe buy a couple of them so that you have them on stock and you don't have to then pay full price. Okay, the next area, fun in the sun for less. Now, I absolutely love to travel. So this is one of my favorite topics because finding inexpensive ways to travel has been one of the things that I have really actually loved doing. So here are some tips. This one, the first one is what I call timely booking. So we all know that very often the further in advance that you book, the cheaper that the prices can be. When I used to book in order to go visit my family in the United States, I would usually book my flight about a year ahead of time and could usually get a pretty good price on this. Interestingly enough, when I came to Europe, I found out not only do they have early bird specials, but they also have what's called last minute specials. So here, if you actually wait until the last minute, you can actually also get some good deals because hotels have purchased or tour operators have purchased hotel rooms. And if they don't sell them, then they offer them at a discount price or they offer package tours at a discount price. Airbnb, I am a huge fan of Airbnb. In fact, I have actually used Airbnb for business trips. There was one year where I asked my boss if it would be possible for me to work from China for a month, and he agreed to let me do this, but the condition was that I stayed at an Airbnb and not in a hotel, because obviously that would be much more expensive. And I don't know how many of you have used Airbnb, but there are two options. You can either book an entire apartment, or you can book a room in someone's house. And this is actually the option that I prefer. One, because people's homes tend to obviously be very nice because they live there as well. It's not an apartment that they're just making available for vacations and might not be as nice as their homes. Plus, you really get a taste of the local culture. And I've stayed in Airbnbs, again, all around the world. And in fact, there was an Airbnb that I stayed in Beijing, China. It was a couple and they were very, very nice. They showed me all around the city. They cooked for me. And what was really nice was then the next time that I went back to Beijing, I booked their Airbnb again. And when I went to see them, they basically said, "Welcome home." I had made new friends through this trip, and it was really, really a fantastic experience. So I recommend definitely Airbnb. But also there are opportunities, and my sister is quite good at this one, of staying places for free. One of the ways that she does this is through house sitting and house swapping. So there are websites for this. House sitting is actually quite interesting because you actually can get paid for doing this, which is what my sister has done. She has gone and stayed in someone's house and watched their dog for a week and actually made money. And now these days, because remote work is much easier to do, she can just bring her laptop, she goes to somebody else's house, She takes care of the pets and actually gets paid and gets a change of scenery. And the other one, house swapping, is exactly what the name says. Basically, you decide to swap your house for another house someplace else. They come to stay in your place, you go to stay in their place, and it's a fantastic way to go stay someplace for free. So I definitely recommend doing these options. And I see, Louise, thank you for putting up the polls. We'll take a look at those. Okay, so what can you do?
Teri.
Oh, that's Kayo's doing that.
Pulling up some polls, yeah.
Fantastic, good. I'd love to get the feedback. So again, what can you do now? First of all, you always want to see how much you can spend on vacation, and if possible, don't put it on your credit cards. But sign up for notifications on travel sites, have a look at Airbnb or house swapping. Maybe add some vacation days to a business trip, for example. If your company is sending you abroad, unfortunately, we don't get to do that as much these days, but sometimes you can add some vacation days. You can house or pet sit, or maybe even stay with friends. And this goes back to what we were talking about before. If you go and stay with a friend, one thing that I used to do, because I got a chance to stay there for free, I would babysit the kids for a night so that the couple could go out and have a date night. And if it's not possible to travel, even a staycation can be an option, just staying in your town and exploring new areas. So those are just 4 areas where there are ideas of how you can look at your spending, how you can have fun, you can be creative in the ways that you give gifts, in where you go shopping for clothes, in the types of products that you use. And another thing I'd like to encourage you to do is finding your voice. And what does this mean? Well, very often we just don't ask about things. So asking about discounts. When you go to an open air market, for example, it's very, very common to bargain. But I don't think any of us would consider doing that in a department store. However, funny enough, I have a girlfriend and her mother is excellent at this. In fact, she's been known to walk up to somebody and ask them, in stores, well, is this your best price? Can you offer me a discount? And all we have to do here is actually ask and see if something is possible. Another thing is to ask for items and services within your circles of friends, for example. There was a colleague who had just moved to Germany and had an empty apartment and needed to furnish this apartment. So what she did was she just simply asked at work, does anybody have, some extra furniture or something that I could use? And of course, before she knew it, she had a dining room table and a couple of sofas because people had this furniture in their house that they didn't need, that they wanted to get rid of. And all she had to do was ask to see if anybody had anything that they could possibly lend her or give her. And this is a very interesting idea, which is expanding your circle of whom you ask. So social media is fantastic for this. In fact, here in Valencia, where I am, we have a lot of Facebook expat groups, and very often people are posting things such as, does anybody know of a good masseuse in the area? In fact, I placed this, I was looking to get a massage, and sure enough, somebody around the corner was offering massages in her home for $25. And the only reason I knew about this was because I asked in this group, in this social media group, for a recommendation. So in finding your voice, one of the things to do is maybe look at some items you need, identify people who you could ask, think of services you could offer in type of maybe a sort of a barter system, maybe ask for a special deal or research Facebook groups. And another thing, and I think this was something people did also during the pandemic, is maybe asking for deferred payments or asking for a change in services so that you can bring some of your bills down as you're looking at your finances. So the last area, sort of, again, the idea is that we're facing finances. It might not feel so great, but we're going to start to make the shift to put some of these creative ideas into practice and really start to feel good. And one of the things is to really change in the perspective. You'll see that I very rarely use the term budget because that seems to make people feel negative and feel like they are depriving themselves and they're not able to do what they want. But a real change of perspective is actually to reward yourself when you see that you've actually been able to save some money, and to give yourself small rewards as you also build up to some larger rewards. And then one of my favorite topics is actually the money-making minimalist. So as we've gone through and we've seen things such as doing an inventory of your clothing or doing some decluttering in your house, one of the things that's great that I've found is that actually when you start to declutter and you become a minimalist, you can actually make money doing this. Selling things on eBay. There are sites where you can sell books. I did this with a girlfriend of mine. She was moving from Germany to California, and there was an app where you scanned in your book and they told you how much they would give you for it. You boxed it up, they came and picked it up, and lo and behold, she had made $400 on 3 bookshelves worth of books. So again, as we were looking before, we were looking at how to influence your spending. Here's also a way that you can increase your income. And that's probably the last of the topics because I want to be conscious of time. This relationship between earning, spending, and saving. So when you look at your finances, it could be that you're in this first area, that actually the amount of money you earn is not covering your expenses. So you're going to maybe try to earn a little bit more and reduce your expenses so that you have some money left over. And then maybe you get a promotion at work or you get a second job and you're able to increase your earnings and still reduce your spending, increase your spending in line with your earnings, but you're still able to save some money. What's really rewarding is actually when you find that you are earning more, but your expenses are still going down. Of course, you want to reward yourself maybe for the new promotion, and you want to maybe be able to afford some new things, but also continuing to reduce your spending will really help you to achieve goals. And as I said, one of the things that I did in following this, as I found that I was increasing my earnings and reducing my spending, is that it really allows you to save some money and work towards some long-term goals, like maybe buying an apartment in another country or buying a car. Because I find one of the things that can happen is that people start to not look at their spending and they increase all of their expenses, that when something like a pandemic hits, then they really actually don't have the money to cover their expenses. So there's this really nice balance between earning more, but also lowering your expenses at the same time so that you can put some money aside and save towards those long-term goals. Again, I wanted to just give you some ideas and share with you some content. I see that there have been some polls here, so I'm very happy to hear your experience with ideas or creative ideas for saving money or for curbing your expenses. The idea here is that we know facing finances, sometimes it might be the first time that you do this, it might not be so much fun, but hopefully with some of these ideas, some of these next steps, some of this food for thought, you can finally, as these people are, feel fantastic about your financial health, how you're spending your money, being able to achieve some goals, to reward yourselves. And yeah, I would love to hear any questions that you have, or Caio, any results of the polls here. Would love to hear ideas from the group.
First, I want to thank you, Teri, so much for this wonderful talk. I think we all learned a lot with this great session. Caio, do you want to tell us the answers of the poll? But I would like to open the floor for the students. The guys who are here, if you guys want to, look, Sandra is saying, fantastic, I love her ideas, good topic. Who would like to say something or ask Teri a question over the microphone? Julio, open Julio's microphone, Kai, who wants to say something, please.
Just give me a second.
These tips are great, Teri. What do you think about couch surfing? I've never done it, but would like to. Julio, do you want to ask live?
There you go, Julio. You should be able to talk now.
Yeah, I think Luis has just asked the question. So
About couch surfing.
Yeah.
I haven't done it either, but I do know people who have done it and have had good experiences with it. I also know of another organization called Warm Showers for cyclists, where you get to stay for free with other cyclists, and they offer you a warm shower. Basically, that's where the name came from. But yeah, there are lots of the organizations like that, which I haven't tried yet, but I'm interested in doing so.
That's really nice. I also remember now the free walking tours we can get, like in case you're traveling on a budget and you don't want to spend on the tours and the tour guides, the free walking tours are also interesting, right?
Absolutely. Another thing that I'd like to try, which allows you to work and travel, is this organization called Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms, where you actually go and work on an organic farm for free room and board, basically, and you can go there and learn all about agriculture and about farming and gardening. So that's a really interesting thing too as well.
Very nice talk, Teri. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hey, Teri, I have a question.
Yes.
I would like to hear your opinion about Black Friday. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's interesting. In fact, I know there's a joke, Black Friday always comes after Thanksgiving in the United States. And they say, so why is it that the day after the Americans give thanks for everything they have, they go out and buy like crazy on Black Friday? I think that there are opportunities throughout the year to look for sales and so on. The thing with Black Friday is sometimes then they just put out special items just for that day. And with the massive crowds and so on, I mean, I've heard horror stories of people actually getting hurt and trampled trying to get to that. So I think that there are other ways to look for bargains in shops instead of waiting for one particular day.
Awesome. In Brazil now we have like a whole month of promotions, you know, so it became like Black November, not Black Friday anymore. So it's good to hear about that.
Indeed. Any other questions or comments from the group?
Where can we buy your book, Teri?
Well, it hasn't been printed yet. These are just some ideas out of it. It's probably going to be available at the end of the year. So there's still a little bit of work to do it.
Awesome. Anybody here would like to ask a question or say something from the group, guys? Just put up your hand. There's a raised hand. It will hand you the microphone.
No.
Okay, no problem. So, Caio, do you want to show the results of the polls?
Yes, let me just open it up here. So about the thrift shop, it's a tie. We have 12 people that, we have 12 people that answered and 6 voted yes, 6 voted no. So interesting, yes. Personally, I never bought clothes from a thrift shop, but it's interesting to know that at least half of the people that answered the poll, they have bought something at the thrift shop. And then the other one, which is about the Airbnb, we had 19 people answering, and 11 answered yes, and 8 no. So yes, the majority has already rented or booked some apartment with Airbnb.
Perfect.
So I would like to thank you, Teri, and thank everybody who joined us. we're going to send you a survey so you can answer and let us know what you would like to see in our next talks. We're very, very happy to have you all here. And Caio, congrats. Great job inviting everyone. And Teri, thanks for the wonderful lesson. We learned a lesson. I myself am going to think about this talk the whole month now.
Yes. I just have a final announcement. We recorded this session, so this is going to be available through YouTube, so you can take a look later. We have the best webinars there as well, so you can take a look at the other sessions that we had. And we're having these sessions monthly. So from September, we're going to have, we don't know for sure the subject yet, but we're going to have another session so you can practice your English with a native speaker. And if you want to suggest a subject or anything that we can improve on that, we are here to hear you. So thank you. And it has been a really great experience to